Hi guys, it's Rebecca. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Today's video is going to be my June reading wrap up. These are the books that I read in the month of June. And I feel like I haven't really read anything in over a week. I've just been kind of, not in a reading slump, because I have been kind of listening still on audiobooks on my drives, but that's really the only time where I've been reading. I've just been really interested in watching TV, doing other stuff, than being home, and it's just, I still read 10 books, which is still pretty good, but I just feel like I would have been able to read maybe 2 more if I hadn't been on this kind of like reading slumpish type situation. I did go out of town last weekend, and I took a book with me, and I had an audiobook prepared because it was going to be about 24 hours of travel time. And I still ended up reading like 1 chapter of my physical book, and that was it. So unfortunately, I haven't been in the mood. It's not bad. I don't want to force myself to read because then I'm not going to enjoy what I'm doing. So I'm just going to let the desire of reading come back to me. I'm still going to be listening to my audiobook slowly. And we'll see when this reading slump ends. But I did read 10 books. And as I was getting them together here to share with you guys, I read almost all of them are sequels or part of a series. So that was nice. I was able to complete the series as far out as they are, or completely finish the series. So I'm going to start with the, I guess I'll save these for last. So the only 2 books that are not part of a series are my nonfiction pick of the month and some other book. But the nonfiction pick was Friends, Lovers, and the other and Big Terrible Things by Matthew Perry. This is Matthew Perry's memoir. He was Chandler from Friends, and I really enjoyed this book. I was expecting to have this book be like funny and to be laughing out loud, but it really wasn't. It was really an honest insight, I think, into his life and the things that he went through. It was kind of had a serious tone. It wasn't depressing at all, but I thought it was gonna be like a funny book, like, because you know he's a funny guy. He's like a comedian, you can say. I don't know. He's done a lot of funny movies, and he was a funny one on Friends. So I thought this was gonna be like a funny book to read, but like I said, it was really kind of sad to learn about how he grew up, the struggles that he went through with drugs and alcohol. And it was, I give it 4 stars. I would have given it 5 stars just because I didn't like the format of this. It kind of jumped back and forth between his time on Friends. Like, it wasn't like a linear explanation of his life from when he was young as he got older, Friends, post-Friends, things like that. He would talk about his younger days and then talk about Friends a little bit, and then he'd go back and forth. So it wasn't a linear telling of his life story, but I still enjoyed it. I think it's worth a read if you're a friend of fans, because it was interesting to learn about his life. Then I read Innocent Traitor by Alison Weir. This is the other book that was not part of a series. This itself is, but it's not a series that I own per se. So this is a story of fictional retelling story of Lady Jane Grey, who was, I believe, the niece or the grand niece of Henry VIII. If you didn't know, Henry VIII had like 1 million wives. He killed all of them except one who actually died at childbirth, giving him his only rightful heir. He kind of, the children that he had prior to his firstborn son, he kind of illegitimized, like he declared them bastards to not give them any right to a claim to the throne. So his 3rd wife, I can't remember the name of the wife, but I think her name was Jane, maybe. I don't know, can't remember, but she died shortly after childbirth, and she gave him a son, and the son died, I think, when he was 7 years old. So since he had no other, legitimate heirs to claim the throne, at this time, there were a lot of like plots for people to try to steal the throne. And so the family of Lady Jane, who was, like I said, the niece or grandniece of Henry VIII, she becomes part of this plot, and she actually does become queen, but she only becomes queen for a week before she is killed, and then one of Henry's daughters claims the throne. So this is kind of like the story of how we got to the point of Jane. We follow her from when she was born. There's different points of views, but we follow from when she was born through her childhood, when she got married, and then when she became queen, and then her beheading after she became queen. So I love this. I think if you enjoyed Philippa Gregory's books in regards to the Tudor era, I think you'll enjoy this. And I just realized that Alison Weir also has books for each queen, like for I think of Catherine of Aragon, of Anne Boleyn, Catherine Stewart, like all the wives that Henry VIII had. So I'm interested in checking them out. I got this at Goodwill many years ago. I probably owned this book for about 8 or 9 years, and I finally read it. So glad that I'm making a dent in my backlog of my books. So the next book that I read was Killjoy by Holly Jackson. This is a Good Girl's Guide to Murder novella. Now, when I saw this online, I didn't realize that it said novella on the cover, and I was like, oh my gosh, another book by Holly Jackson. If you guys didn't know, I loved this series, the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I really enjoyed that series. It's a YA series, and the books are right back here. So there's these 3, and then I just purchased 5 Survive. So anyway, I didn't know this was a novella, so this took me no time to read, and this is a prequel to the first book, and we follow Pip, who is our main character, and her friends at a dinner party type thing where it's a murder mystery, and they're supposed to solve the mystery, kind of like that movie Glass Onion. You know, somebody invites everybody to a house and they have to solve a murder and things like that. So this is kind of like a Glass Onion type book. I enjoyed it. I don't think you need to read it. You kind of just discovered how Pip falls in love with crime solving, basically. But it makes it doesn't add anything to the trilogy itself. So I don't think this is a necessary read for that trilogy if you're interested in reading that trilogy. Then I read the second book from Dial 8 for Aunties by J.C.Q. Sutanto. This is For Aunties and a Wedding. And in this book, it's a follow-up to the first book, in which our main character, Medi, she gets engaged, and obviously we're working towards her wedding. And I felt the same way about this book as I did with the other one. Like, the aunties are so annoying. Like, I enjoy the book as long as the aunties are not in it, because I just feel like they are so over the top. I don't know if it's just like culturally true how family behaves. Are they Filipino? I think they're Filipino, right? Oh no, Chinese Indonesian family. So I don't know if that's true or not, but it was hard for me to enjoy this book. I know there's a third book, and the fourth book just came out, or the cover just was released. And I kind of want to stop reading it. Like, I don't care to keep going, but part of me like enjoys the story enough to want to keep reading it. So yeah, I don't know. I'm torn between this book, so let's just move on. Next book is also a sequel, kind of a sequel, Companionship. This is A Lot Like Adios by Alexis Daria. This is the sequel to You Had Me at Hola. And in this book, we follow the cousin of the main character from that other book. And here we follow Michelle. And she is kind of her career is not going very well. Let's just say she works in the marketing department. And then we follow our other main guy, Gabriel, who owns a gym, and he's trying to move a branch of the gym to New York City. And so marketing and a new business opening kind of brings them together. And it turns out that not only are they working together now to get this business going, but they have history between the two of them when they were younger. I don't know if when they were teenagers or maybe young adults, but they had a thing going on, and something happened, and Gabriel just walked away, leaving Michelle like what happened? How come this guy disappeared? broke her heart completely, and then now they're brought back together because they have to work on this project. And of course, feelings start developing again. They start remembering how much they care for each other. Their families know each other. So at some point during this whole ordeal, they have to pretend they're fake dating, and then their families find out. They think they're really dating for real, and this whole drama happens. This was a fun book to read. A little bit over dramatic, but it's fine. It works for these types of books because these types of books are kind of like telenovelas, and you know, though they are kind of overly dramatic in their acting. So I feel like these books are kind of like that. But I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun reading this book, and I would definitely read the next installment in this series. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or what, but I don't think you need to read the first book to read this one. It just kind of makes a reference of the characters from the first book, but it doesn't spoil anything, I don't think, from the first book. So had fun reading it, so I liked it. Then I read First Comes Like by Alicia Rai, and this is the third and final book, I guess, in the, what are they called? I don't know what they're called, but the first book is Gone Girl Viral, and the second one is what is the second one? The Right Swipe. And this is the third book, and we follow our main character. What is her name? I don't remember. Gia, who is an influencer, and then we follow this other guy who is Dev, and he is a famous actor. He comes from like Bollywood royalty, and this is kind of like a fake dating, catfishing type trope. We follow Gia thinks that Dev has been following her, and they've been interacting online, but it turns out that it was somebody faking as Dev. So when she tries to meet him, he's like, I've never met you, who are you? And then so she gets super offended. She's like, how can you be pretending you don't know me, blah, blah, blah. So then he realizes that someone, you know, faked his account, pretended to be him while he talked to her, and that whole ordeal. So I really enjoyed it. This was probably my favorite book out of the three that she's written. And I enjoyed it. If you haven't read any of the books, of the three companion books, I would suggest you start with this one. I think this one was the best one. Next, I read the books 2 and 3 of the Finley Donovan series. The second one is Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead, and the third one is Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. And I had a lot of fun reading both of these books. If you haven't read Finley Donovan, what is the name of the first one? Is Killing It. We follow Finley Donovan, who is a struggling mom who is writing a book, or trying to write a book. She's trying to get an advance because she's like totally broke. And so she's trying to write a murder mystery type story. And when she's talking to her agent about the plot of the story, somebody overhears, and they think that she is a kill for hire. I don't know. They think that she gets paid to kill people. So the person that overhears, you know, gives her a note and tells her, you know, I will pay you to kill my ex-husband. She at first agrees, but then her conscience is like, this is not right. I can't do this. She's about to quit, but then suddenly the man that she's supposed to kill turns up dead. So they think that she went through with it. And so they're trying to keep her, you know, doing these things, trying to hire her to do these things. So in the second book, Finley Donovan Knocks Him Dead, we follow Finley's ex-husband, who has now a mark on his head. I guess because, you know, Finley is now involved with the Russian mob. She has a mark on her back, and so she's trying to protect him because after all, she is the father of her children, and he made it clear that he kind of still has feelings for her. He wants to kind of work it out, but you know, she's already involved with someone else. It's kind of like a love triangle happening here while trying to keep him alive, and he doesn't know that his life is in danger, so she's kind of like becoming a jerk to him. So it's a lot of fun. It's funny. I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun reading this, so highly recommend the Finley Donovan series. And then in the third book, in Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun, we continue following Finley, who is still struggling to write her book. You know, even though all these things are happening to her in her life, she's still trying to finish writing her book, because that's her real job, not just solving these weird mysteries that are happening around her. But in this book, we follow her assistant, Vero, who gets caught in a situation, and I don't want to spoil it too much, so I can't say much, but she's trying to help her assistant deal with this situation while simultaneously writing this book. Now in this book, her publishing company is really after her because she's kind of like not made progress. So it's a little bit smaller than the second book, actually. There's not a lot of meat to this book as the other one, but I still enjoyed it. I highly recommend. And then last but not least, I have a series that I started this month. I read books 1 and 2. There are 6 books in the series, and it's a high fantasy series. And it's the Codex Alera series by Jim Butcher. Now these books are big. They're big fat books. For some reason, this one's really floppy, and this one's a little stiffer. This one is a lot older. As you guys can see, it has yellow pages already. But yeah, the first book was called Furies of Calderon, and the second book is called Academ's Fury. So in the first book, we meet our main character, Tavi, who in this world, people have affinities to the elements, earth, wind, fire, water, and something else, wood and metal. So people get their powers or their furies once, you know, they call on these elements. I'm sorry, it's really hard for me to describe high fantasy, but anyway, they get their powers from these elements, and we follow our main character, Tavi, who is, I think, 15 years old, 13 or 15 years old, and he's at that age where he should have already developed these affinities for these furies, what they call, but he doesn't have any. He doesn't have any powers, and he's trying to keep that secret, because if they know in this world that you don't have any powers, you're kind of, you know, at the mercy of everybody else. You're in higher danger because you can't really defend yourself. So anyway, we follow the beginning of the book. We follow these 2 characters, these slaves who are trying to infiltrate this other camp of the enemy territory, and they get captured. And then we meet Tavi, and that's how we find out that he has no powers, yet he helps the spies escape slavery, I guess you can say. And yeah, we start on the quest, and I really enjoyed it. I think it was easy to follow enough. It was easy enough to follow where I wasn't like super confused and having to restart the book multiple times, because that's what happens sometimes with really high fantasy novels, that I have to restart again and again and again because I just get lost. So it didn't happen here. And then in this book, we follow the events that followed up at the end of this book. We kind of continue them in this book. We still follow Tavi with no powers, and in the second book, he's entrusted to kind of lead the army and kind of like wage a war, while the people that he works for have no idea that he has no power. So he's kind of like really winging it here. He's in a lot of danger because he can't really summon all these forces to help him fight, yet he's doing it. He's really doing it. And in this book, we follow our little slave from our girl slave from this book, and then there's a little bit of romance here, not with Tavi, because Tavi's only 15 and this other lady is an adult already. But we follow a little romance story. I'm reading the 3rd book right now, and I'm really enjoying it. The romance has gotten a little bit more, sorry about the AC, a little bit more prominent within the storyline, but I'm highly enjoying them. So I'm sorry if I didn't do a good job in explaining these books, but they're really good. I feel like they're pretty easy to read compared to other high fantasy novels that I have read in the past, but I hope that I'm doing a good enough of a job explaining what they're about, so you guys can check them out if you're into high fantasy. But that's all I read for the month of June. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.